Hello, and welcome to another episode of Two Chicks, One Show, where we recap and review one currently airing show, an episode a week as it airs. My name is Tricia Ennis. She is Kait Calabro. We are your two chicks. And this week's one show, as it has been for the past couple of weeks, is Outlander Season 2, Episode 4, La Dame Blanche.
Yes. First, I would like to say, may the force be with you, Tricia.
Oh, yes. May the force be with you as well.
Thank you. You should have said it also with you.
Yeah, I should have. I've been fighting my Catholic root for so long on that one that I just do it.
I always do that. But anyway, so this episode is, this season's been pretty exciting, except for like the first episode with all that Frank stuff was a little boring. But whatever. But this season has really picked it up with the excitement, and this episode is no different. We start off with Claire being poisoned at the castle Versailles, and she goes and visits one of our favorite new characters, Raymond. And he gives her this special magical stone that will detect poison in her drinks, since clearly someone's out to get Lady Claire Fraser. They also do this cool little, I believe it's African game, where she rolls some bones on an animal hide.
It's not a game, it's a form of divination.
Yeah, whatever. And she is questioning about Frank, because now with everything that's going on with Randall, she's now remembers that she has a husband in a different time, and it's not just Jamie that's around. Crazy. And she finds out that she will see Frank again, which is very bewildering to Claire, because she doesn't know how that's going to happen. Foreshadowing. And so Claire learns in her lady duties that Louisa is pregnant, but she is pregnant with another man's baby. Dun dun dun. Flash forward to that other man is crazy Prince Charles, which is weird, but I guess it kind of makes sense that the two would get together, but then it's kind of just like, what? So Claire and Jamie decide that this is the perfect thing they need to add to their dinner party that is just a dinner party of sabotage. So they plan this whole dinner party for the Duke, and the Prince is going to come, and Louise is going to come, and there's just going to be a bunch of tension drama. But on the day of their big dinner, Claire needs to go to the hospital to save lives. So she goes off to save lives, and on her way back out, the wagon has a broken wheel, and then they decide to walk, and apparently walking in Paris is really difficult because it takes them like freaking hours. And on their travels back, they are bombarded by assassins who knock out Myrta, which I was not happy about, and try to attack Claire, but then they realize who Claire is and stop attacking her and rape Mary. And then at the dinner party, shit goes down, and then it ends up with Myrta and Jamie in a sword fight with other people, not with each other. And Fergus gets a good dinner.
Yes. The last scene, while kind of weird, was also hilarious because I liked the nice cuts between the punching people in the face and Fergus eating food.
Yeah, the hands down, the best episode of this, the best scene of this episode, maybe even the season thus far, would be Fergus explaining women to Myrta.
Yes. Yes.
Who Myrta pretends like he doesn't care, but then continuously questions like a 10-year-old.
Yeah, I like their dynamic in that they're like establishing for those two characters in the show, because it's not one that exists in the book, but it's really fun in the show.
Because like Fergus doesn't have really anyone. I mean, he's an orphan, and Myrta is just missing doofuses so much, like he's missing Angus and Rupert, that he's just trying to find a replacement, and he's totally found a replacement in just bullshitting with Fergus. So it's great. It's a great relationship, and I love every second of it. But no surprise.
I think it's a lot of fun.
But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened in this episode, and then at the same time I feel like nothing happened in this episode.
I feel like nothing truly like exciting happens until like the halfway mark.
Yeah, about that. We were talking about this a little bit offline, but one of the big things that we do for Outlander since the half season last year is that I have read most of the book while you haven't. So you're coming to this entirely from the perspective of just watching the TV show. And I'm reading the book. And last season, it was interesting to watch the show because they didn't make a lot of changes to the book, but they did make some changes. They made a few decisions that were different, and they were interesting to see. You know, they cut out a lot of the boring stuff. But this season, it feels like they're changing a whole lot of tiny things that don't affect the overall story. Like, the major plot points are still there, but they're, like, doing weird stuff differently, like, just to keep it in the story, or they're doing things out of order. Like, I feel like the whole thing with Louise and Charles Stewart, that it happened in a different order in the book, so that you knew when Louise told Claire that it was Charles' baby.
Instead of opposite.
Instead of the other way around. Like, I don't know that for a fact. Because I can't everything blends together. There's a lot of really similar scenes in the book. You know, this whole charade with the baby and Charles is very differently played out, so that it goes out over a period of time. And, like, I don't even know if they were at the dinner party in the book. I honestly can't remember because of how everything sort of blends together.
Yeah.
But, like, that's one of the things they changed, so that you don't know who the father of the baby is until Charles busts into their house. Like, I feel like those scenes were almost switched.
He does, in this episode, bust into Louise's house, I guess, but we don't see that part. That's when...
Right, but he also busts into Jamie and Claire's house.
Yeah.
Which we do see.
Yeah.
And so, like, that I feel like is in the opposite order, so that when Charles is talking about it, there's a little bit of, like, dramatic irony. Just to make it a little more entertaining, maybe for the audience. I don't know. I don't know what the decision was there. I think one of the biggest changes, and maybe this is just perception, because, like, when you're reading the book, you don't actually hear anyone saying the lines. But, like, the thing that both of us hate about Charles Stewart is how so freaking nuts he is.
Yeah. He's, like literally crazy.
He's just bonkers in the show. And in the book, he always just struck me as naive. And maybe, like fanciful almost. Like, he has this romantic notion of seizing back the throne. And he also has all of these romantic notions about his affair with Louise. And so, like, he always just struck me as this, essentially a romantic character who's just kind of stupid.
Yeah.
But in the show, he's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing up the whole, like, divine purpose thing in the show. Like, it's his, you know, it's God's will. It's what God wants. He wants a Catholic, you know, all this kind of stuff. And, like, they even play on that even more during the dinner party when they start talking about the Pope and how the Pope was too busy to see the Duke and, like, that, like, those kind of things. So, I mean, they're kind of not doing that whole, like, the romanticizing becoming, you know, the King of Scotland and the King of England and uniting both countries and putting a cat, like, there's no, it's just kind of like, this is what God wants. God told me this is what I want and I will be the king, like that kind of thing, which is weird.
In the show, it doesn't feel like a romantic notion.
No, it just feels like something that, like, this is what I was born to do and this is my right, so give it to me.
And I think one of the things that manages to accomplish with the character is that in the show, he seems dangerous.
Yeah, because he's a fanatic. He's, like, kind of like, he's so obsessed with this one thing. And his whole, in a way, it's sad for him because this is his whole entire life. Like, becoming the king of England and taking back that throne for his father and then for himself is all he's kind of living for.
Yeah, meanwhile, when you read the character doesn't read that way in the book. Like, he reads like an idiot kid, you know, who wants to do this grand thing because it's honorable and blah, blah, blah. But also, he doesn't really seem to care all that much. Yeah. Like, one of the biggest complaints that Jamie has of dealing with him is that he never actually wants to talk about how he's going to seize the throne back.
Mm-hmm.
He mostly just wants to talk about the woman that he's in love with.
Which I honestly had no idea that this, like, him having a relationship with Louisa would be even an idea, like, even possible until this episode. And I was even like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because he's never, like, he would say things about, like, the horrors and stuff, but, like, never talked about being in love with anyone.
Yeah. And meanwhile, in the book, that's his main preoccupation.
Mm-hmm.
It's this idea of being in love with this woman, not really understanding what to do about it, and constantly hounding Jamie about, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And just being love.
I mean, maybe now it will change a little bit. It will, maybe now that we know that he's in love with someone and that she's having his baby, maybe that situation will change where it will focus more on her versus the whole taking back his throne kind of thing. But until this episode, I had no idea that this man would even be in love with anyone besides himself and, like, God.
Which is why I feel like all this stuff is happening in a bizarre order from the book, and it's the first time that I've kind of preferred the way the book told the story. Mm-hmm. It just felt more naturally flowing, whereas in the show, I don't know how quickly they're trying to tell the story. I can't tell.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things seem to be blurring together. Like, they seem to be conflating more than one scene into one event in the show that happens over a longer period of time. Like, the rape scene, I don't think happens until a quarter to a third of the way through the book.
Yeah.
And, we're on episode 4. Now, admittedly, assuming there are only 13 episodes this season, which one of our
viewers did say that it's only 13 episodes.
Did say that it is 13 episodes with no break this season. Mm-hmm. If it's only 13 episodes, if they're going to do the whole book, which I really kind of hope they aren't because there's too much stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm assuming, and I know we're getting, like, completely off track from the episode.
That's okay.
But I am assuming that at some point we're going back to Scotland. Because I only know this because Doogie is in this season. Like, Dougal and Rupert and Colum are all in this season, so at some point we have to go back to Scotland.
Well, Dougal doesn't have to appear in Scotland, but the others, yeah, they do. I mean, Colum's not going to go across.
Colum's not going to France anytime soon.
Colum's not going anywhere anytime soon. He can barely stand.
Yeah.
But
oh my God, does Colum die and they have to go back for his funeral?
I'm not telling you why they have to go back to Scotland.
Well, you just told me they're going back to Scotland. So.
Well, you said that we're not going to get into this. Anyway.
But, like, before, let's not even talk about the dinner party or anything yet. We have to talk about, like, Jamie and Claire drama that I kind of almost forgot.
That's one of the things I wanted to bring up because it follows the same notion of changing, like, keeping the major moments but changing huge things.
Yeah. Because it almost got foreshadowed by all the craziness that happened during the second half of the episode. So the episode opens with Jamie and Claire and one of my other favorite new characters, the Minister of Finance?
Yeah.
He's playing. This man loves fucking chess. He's playing chess with Jamie, and Claire, I guess, just goes with them. And this is where at this point, she tries to get poisoned, and it's the same exact way that
she doesn't try to get poisoned. She does get poisoned.
Yeah, she's not trying to get poisoned. She does get poisoned, and it's the same way that Raymond said that he sells his poison. And Frenchie McFrenchpants, what the hell's his name?
The Comte de Saint Germain.
Germain. I'm going to call him Frenchie McFrenchpants because I think he's the Frenchest guy on this show. Not the freshest guy, the Frenchest guy. So
Sorry to all of our French viewers.
So Frenchie McFrenchpants he's at court, so clearly hello. Which is when Claire goes and visits Raymond, and he's like, I didn't do that. Relax, girl. I got your back. It must have been some servant. So that's when he gives her the rock. I guess I forget how. I know, like, Claire tells Jamie that Blackjack is alive while they're in bed. But I forget.
It's while she's recovering from the poison.
Okay, because I forget, like, what conversation led to that.
Yeah, it's while she's recovering from the poison. She's just sort of like, oh, by the way.
Oh, I should probably let you know, since he's probably coming to our house, since we're having a dinner party, that Blackjack is alive. And, Claire and even Murta were like, oh my God, Jamie's gonna like freak out. He's gonna be so, like, he's elated. Like, this is like the best news that he's ever heard. Because now he gets the chance to kill Blackjack.
I have something I need to ask you, because the version of the show that I watched didn't include a next week on.
Yeah.
Yours?
I think so, but I think it was really short, so like I don't even remember.
Because that's one of the things that I wanted to point out, and I don't want to spoil anything. It's a really weird fine line, because they massively changed the central conflict between Claire and Jamie in this season, this entire season.
Mm-hmm.
At least in the beginning part of the season.
Okay,
by having her...
Oh, because in the book, she doesn't know. She finds out when Jamie finds out that Blackjack's alive?
Yeah, they find out exactly the same time that Blackjack is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this in a previous episode, where in the book version of the scene where she meets Alex, he doesn't say, my brother is alive. He says something about...
I haven't heard from him, or...
About, you must know my brother, blah, 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 talking as though he's still alive. And she thinks, well, he must just not have spoken to anyone.
Yeah.
It's only been a few months, and he's been with, he could have been in France the whole time. So
yeah.
He's heard that his brother's dead. Whereas in the show, she finds out immediately that Blackjack is 100% alive.
Yeah, and then doesn't tell Jamie.
So it creates, but they have they have one, like, big disconnect in this season, which is that Jamie's dealing with the fallout from what happened to him at, Wentworth Prison.
Yeah.
So, like, they haven't had sex, and, like, it's a whole big deal, and Claire's feeling abandoned with the baby, and it's actually a really compelling story, but the whole time I'm, like, pulled out of it, because that's not their relationship in the book. In the book, Jamie's still dealing with, with the fallout, but he's not dealing with it on such a visceral level.
Yeah.
So, like, they're having plenty of sex in the book.
Okay.
Like, lots of it. All throughout.
So what's their conflict in the book then?
Their conflict in the book has to do with Jamie's reaction to finding out that Blackjack is alive. So when he finds out that he's alive, he's not in the show. One of the big things was she tells him he's alive, and he's, like, super happy because I get to kill him now instead of some stupid cows.
Yeah.
In the book, he's not happy that Blackjack is alive, and he immediately challenges him to a duel and is like, I'm going to kill him. Like, immediately says, I'm going to kill him. It's going to happen, like, right now.
Yeah, so it's like, in the book, it's how, like, Murta would describes it in the show, like what he thought Jamie would be like.
Yeah, it's exactly what Murtaugh fears in the show, is that Jamie will immediately rush off to just kill him.
But Jamie's more rational in the show and says he knows that if he goes back to Scotland now, he'll be they'll find him and they'll hang him.
Yes, more or less. Circumstances are slightly different, but again, I don't want to spoil it because I'm going to assume they're still going to do certain things. But the main conflict between Jamie and Claire in the book becomes Jamie saying, I'm going to kill him right the fuck now, and Claire going, no, you can't kill him for at least a year. You have to allow them to conceive the child that will eventually have my husband.
Okay, now I remember what happens next week. Okay. Which kind of follows that. We'll talk about it later. I'll tell you.
We'll talk about it after the weird
done.
So, like, it massively changes that dynamic. So that, and maybe that comes back, and maybe they go back to that being the central conflict, because they essentially resolved the conflict in this episode, the whole we won't have sex and you're leaving me alone with a baby thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I guess,
but the conflict becomes sort of like Claire choosing between her two husbands.
Yeah. I mean, when we watched season 1, we complained about how Jamie was kind of perfect, and he's
way too perfect.
He's not perfect at all in this season.
Good, maybe they listen to us.
Because I mean, he was raped. I get it. He's dealing with a lot, but like Jamie has kind of been a bit of a dick to Claire so far this season. And I think this even showed in this episode. He finds out Blackjack is alive and he's just so happy. And he says, I don't know the direct line, but he says something to her like, oh, this has given me such a purpose to live. And I felt like if I were Claire, I would fucking punch him in the face because, hello, asshole, I'm sitting here with your fucking unborn child growing inside of me, and the reason you want to live now is not because of me and your unborn child, but because you know the fucking Blackjack's alive. He says it and he's just so happy that it's I'm that's kind of fucking twisted.
It's definitely twisted. I kind of understand it in a way, in kind of a twisted way, in that he was robbed of his revenge, so he's never gonna feel that closure. But I also have this thought of revenge doesn't actually bring you any closure.
I mean, I get the revenge thing. I just don't understand. I'm I can understand. I get that he is happy that now he's the one that can kill. I understand all that kind of stuff. I just don't get that why he would say that's a great reason to live. He was such in this such a deep place that nothing else mattered, and he describes it he was in his I don't know, he describes it as a prison, and he was standing somewhere naked and crying on the inside, and he gives this whole big speech. I had a hard time following it.
Yeah, there's something about cowering under a blade of grass.
Yeah, and
it was just wrought with metaphor.
Yeah, and well, this is after he comes home
with bite marks.
With bite marks near his
you can say penis.
I love how I was just afraid to say penis. I've said pretty much everything on this show, but penis was where I was I can't say it.
You have to draw the line at male genitalia.
And Claire freaks out, rightly so. This woman has not been touched for months. And she's pregnant and she's neglected, and she just freaks out. And then he's no, this is a great thing. My thing's working again. Because pretty much my penis is open for business. We can have but he had to still mess around with a whore for him to realize it. I don't know. It was just so weird. But anyway, end of story. Claire and Jamie are back to being fucking perfect again right now.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, that just, it was weird. That whole scene was weird. But I mean, the sex scene in this episode, let's jump to that real quick. Because, no, there's actually a reason. In an interview they did before the season started,
yeah.
It might even have been the Entertainment Weekly interview,
mm-hmm.
They talk about how they fought for that specific sex scene, for doing one with the prosthetic belly.
Oh, yeah.
Because they wanted there to be, something in there about how pregnant women are still sexual beings.
Mm-hmm.
You can still have sex when you're pregnant. In fact, they encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this stuff, so that and it's something that you don't really see a lot on screen. So they really fought for that scene, which I appreciated from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't, the belly didn't bother. She wasn't super pregnant either.
No, she's 5 months pregnant.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. But, that wasn't even the first thing I thought about, was, oh, she's pregnant.
That was literally the only thing I thought about the whole scene, because I remember that interview.
I don't know. I mean, if I were Claire, I'd still be probably, pretty pissed off at Jamie.
The only thing I was thinking the entire time they were fighting was just how just ridiculously muscled Jamie is.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a great bod.
Well, no, to a point where it's no longer attractive to me.
I mean,
his chest is weird to me.
I think it's for me, it's the jawline. He's got this perfectly sculpted jawline where I'm just that's not real. It can't be real.
It's nothing for me.
Yeah. And at this point, so Jamie does the equivalent of I'm gonna go sleep on the couch since you're mad at me.
I'm gonna go sleep in this alcove.
So he goes sleeps in this reading nook. Claire comes in, they're doing the deed, which thank God. It's the first time they haven't done the deed since they probably conceived the child.
No, we actually haven't had a real sex scene on the show all season so far.
Yeah.
We've had fake ones. We had like Jamie hallucination ones.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which are uncomfortable because it's always with Blackjack.
It always turns into being with Blackjack, and it's very strange.
And then they hear some stuff on the roof, and that's when Crazy McCrazy Pants, Prince Charles pops in because he's just hopping the roofs until he found the Frasier's residence. And this is where he actually isn't he's crazy, but he looks so much better without the wig.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he comes in, he's all disheveled, and he's got like a bite on his hand, and he was like telling a story about how he was at his lover's house and his lover broke up with him and he's heartbroken, and that so it's like Claire, this is the first time Claire's meeting Prince Charles too. And as Claire's listening to this story and she's looking at the bite, she goes, oh, now Claire already knows that Louise is pregnant. She doesn't know who Louise's lover is, but she knows that it's not her husband. And she goes, oh, is this bite from a monkey? And he's like, oh yeah, my lover has a monkey or something, and she only likes her. And then this is where Fraser realized that Louise's lover is Prince Charles.
Yeah, and then they're like, we can get them both there.
Yeah.
His broken heart against him.
Yeah, so they become like manipulative. Like, it was almost like an episode of like the Real Housewives of any city that Bravo has Real Housewives in. But they're like, let's have a dinner party and make everyone hate each other. And then we'll just sit back and watch it. It's going to be so much fun. So that's pretty much what they do. So they plan this dinner party. So Louisa and her husband are going to come because Claire convinced her to just convince the husband that it's his kid. The Duke will show up. Charles Stewart's invited. Who else is there? Well, the Count, Frenchie
McFrenchman shows up, and I want to talk about that in a second.
Yeah, Frenchie McFrenchman shows up, but he was invited by the Duke.
Yeah. Which also changes some stuff from the book.
Yeah. And then Mary Hawkins' uncle and her fiancé show up as well.
The Vicomte.
Yeah. So the day of the
French.
Hmm?
They just don't use T's in French.
Yeah. So the day of the dinner party, of course, there's like some like disaster.
There's an explosion at the armory.
Yeah. So Claire has to rush off to the hospital, and she takes the carriage and she takes Myrta, and I don't know why Fergus comes, but Fergus goes with them too. And that's when we get the great Fergus and Myrta scene outside where they talk about Mary Hawkins goes with them. Fergus notices that Mary's sad. And Myrta is like, how the hell do you know? She seemed perfectly fucking fine when she came out the hospital. He goes, no, she's been crying. He goes, there was no tears in her eyes. Like, how do you know? So then Fergus starts to teach Myrta about women while they're throwing knives.
Yeah, the dirk, essentially. But I love how Fergus says, that's why you will die alone with your hand.
That was good. But he always is like, how do you say? Because he's like a little French boy. So he's like, and I think Myrta asks something about Suzette, and then Fergus is like,
she in love?
And then Fergus goes, yeah, with anyone that walks into her door, like walks through her door. So, I mean, sorry, Suzette, you sound like a little bit of a whore. I don't know if you're worthy of my Myrta's love. And then, so they come out, and there's a wheel broken. Nothing really happened.
They lose 2 days on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah. So they have to walk. And they send Myrta.
They don't have to walk. They can wait for to get the wheel fixed. But Claire's like, no, I promised Jamie I'd be home
before
yes, and I'm already gonna be late, so we're gonna walk.
Yeah. And they send little Fergus ahead to tell Jamie. He literally makes it there 10 minutes before they do. Nothing
Fair.
special. And on their way back to the Fraser house, this is when Mary Hawkins tells Claire that she's in love with another man. And
not just anyone.
she says that it was a Randall. This is when Claire like kind of has like a mild freak out because she thinks that she's already corresponding with Blackjack. And then Mary informs her that it's actually Alexander. And then all of a sudden, it's quite like a scene like you would see like in an animated film, except for it gets violent. Where like they're walking down the street and then all of a sudden these like masked assassins come like falling from the sky.
Dropped on top of Murta, knocking the fuck out.
Knock Murta like right out. Like it was like, it almost looked like they had like a bone. Like it was a bone that knocked him out. Like a cane. Didn't it kind of look like that?
I wasn't really paying that close attention.
Like it was almost like Flintstone style, like bone, where they're just like bam, and he just like on the ground. And then the assassins go and start attacking the ladies, and they take poor Mary. Every episode, I just feel more and more sorry for this little girl. She is raped by the assassins, which they make it a point for you to realize that one of the assassins has like a funky birthmark or scar on his hand. Did you notice that?
Yeah, no, of course. It's an insert shot, of course.
I figured you noticed it, but it was
literally like, look, he has a thing on his hand.
And then it kind of reminded me of Superstar, because it almost looked like you know how like she fell in love with the guy that had like a birthmark that looked like bird shit.
Yes.
It almost looked like just bird shit on his hand. But whatever. And then I guess they realize who Claire is, and they're like, oh my god.
They don't realize who Claire is. They see the medallion.
Oh, okay.
And the reason that it was given to her is because
they think she's a witch, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, but Raymond also, I can't remember if he believes that she is. I think he does. I
completely missed like a whole cool thing that happened with Raymond. He said something. He takes her into his back room where he's going to give her the stone, and he says something like he likes to collect things from different times, and he likes looking right at her. I'm like, oh my god, he fucking knows. He knows that she's a time traveler, and I'm just like, this is so exciting. And I'm like, I watched Outlander with my dad, and I'm like being like, oh my god, he knows. And my dad's like, I don't think that's what it meant at all. I'm like, you're a fool. Anyway, continue.
There are things. But the whole thing is that I think Raymond believes it, but I don't know for a fact. But other people definitely do believe that Claire is someone called La Dame Blanche, who's like some sort of fancy witch queen or something.
Okay.
Who can like dictate certain things. It's a huge plot point later, but it also factors into this because it's the reason they don't continue attacking her. Because La Dame Blanche is not a malevolent being, but will totally fuck your shit up if you get on her bad side. Okay. So that's why they run.
That's a cool thing just for Claire to have. So I mean,
it translates into the white woman, I believe.
Okay.
It's also the name of the episode.
That's what I thought. Like they were screaming that, and then my dad, I was like, oh, they must think like she's someone else. And then my dad tried to convince me that they were saying like her Lady Brocktalk, and I go, that's not what they said. So thanks a lot, Dad.
Your dad is wrong.
God, you're an idiot. Anyway, so they get Mary, they make their way back, and Claire has someone go in and get Jamie, who's now Jamie's already started receiving the guests, and he's meeting people, and he's introduced Charles to the Duke and all that kind of thing. And he has this like awkward first meet with Alexander Randall, because he didn't officially meet him at Versailles. So he sees him and he does it like he knows like who he is, and it kind of looks like Blackjack. Yeah, you mentioned that when we talked about the Versailles episode, like how he like wanted to like kill him the first time we saw him.
Yeah.
And then I mean, it's such a shame that Alexander's like a Randall, because he like does this like cute thing. He's like, I'll go eat with the butler. Like but be like, oh, you're dismissed. It's like, okay, sir, I'll go eat with the butler. Like, why? He's so cute. I feel bad for him.
I believe in the book, because all this stuff happened in different order, he did eat at the table with them.
Oh, okay.
There are also like far fewer guests, which is
Yeah.
one of the things that I wanted to bring up, which is that the Comte de Saint Germain was invited to the dinner by the Duke, and one of the big things that they like sort of force you to notice is that the Comte is there while Claire and Mary are getting attacked.
Yeah.
In the book, he's not there, and Claire strongly suspects that he's one of the assailants.
I mean, I feel like he would probably just pay other people to do it.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why she can't. One of the many. Another being that she never saw their faces.
Yeah.
But one of the many reasons why you don't know for a fact that he was involved. But if he wasn't one of the assailants, there's probably a good chance he was at least involved. You also don't know that he's the one that poisoned her originally, like in that other scene.
Okay, they make this all very apparent in the show.
Yeah, like in the show, it's like it was definitely the Comte who poisoned her, and he was definitely not the one who raped her. Where in the book, there's a lot of nuance to trying to figure out who's trying to kill her, and whether it actually is connected at all, or if it's just opportunity.
Yeah. No, I mean, in the show, he's like clearly the one that poisoned. Like, that's without a doubt. I mean, and you're assuming once he realizes that Claire is actually home, he's kind of like, what the fuck, how's she here? So like, you kind of, I mean, you don't have to be a fucking rocket scientist to put these two together for this at all. And I mean, everyone prior to this episode was talking about how Frenchie McFrenchpants is going to be like the big villain for season 2, and so far I'm just like, he hasn't really done anything that's like villainous until this episode, where it was just like, yeah, he's like pretty hardcore. I mean, I get that she like was the person that suggested that you burnt one of your ships, but like, you're going a little hard, dude. Like, relax.
Yeah, it's interesting how much they're making him an obvious villain. Like, I mean, he was always a villain in the book too. He was an obvious villain in the book, but he was also just a suspected villain in the book, where like she kept getting warned about him and she kept having suspicions about him.
Yeah.
But it was never explicit. Like, it was never, he definitely did this, or he definitely didn't do that.
Well, I mean, even prior to the season starting, they set him up as being like, this is our season 2 villain, like in interviews and stuff. So I'm not too surprised, but like, this one is kind of just like, yeah, he's bad. Yeah, he's trying to kill Claire. What are you going to do about it? Kind of situation. So they come back. Jamie meets them outside in the courtyard of the house, and I think I don't know how Alexander finds out. He comes running out too, and they take Mary up to a room. Claire gives her some medicine and Alexander agrees to stay with her, and Claire gets ready for the party, and they go downstairs and they begin their dining experience.
Some dining experience.
Yeah, which includes Claire, Jamie, Frenchie McFrenchpants, the poor woman that's married to him, crazy Prince Charles, and then Louisa and her husband, who doesn't seem like a bad guy. Like, and
I don't think he was ever cast as a bad guy. It was way more like
she just doesn't care for him.
You love him. He's a marriage of opportunity.
Yeah. Which is fine as long as you don't get pregnant.
By somebody else.
Yeah, by somebody else. So then, like, Jamie and Claire are just trying to like get Charles all riled up to prove to the Duke that he's like freaking crazy, so the Duke stops giving Charles money. And it's working. They start talking about the Pope, and the Duke is clearly a Protestant. He is part of the, he is a Duke within the English reign. English is Protestant.
England.
Yeah. And, Charles is a very devoted Catholic and is like besties with the Pope, apparently.
And God.
Yeah, and God. And So that starts happening. But then, like, when that's not really working as well for Jamie, Jamie then throws in, like, oh, Louisa, I hear you're pregnant. And that's when shit starts going crazy. And, Charles is,
Charles Stewart.
yeah. So, like, Charles always has crazy eyes, but his eyes went especially crazy when he hears that news. Meanwhile, there's some awkward banter with Claire and Frenchie McFrenchpants, who's sitting right next to Claire, about her necklace. She's wearing the necklace to detect poison, and Frenchie McFrenchpants' wife says something like, "Oh, it's so beautiful," and then Frenchie was like, oh, actually, that rock is for poison, to detect poison.
It's magic. Didn't you know that?
And I mean, I wonder if we should all be wearing one if, Lady Fraser's wearing one in her own house. Like that kind of like a corny like joke. Meanwhile, upstairs, first off, why isn't Myrta invited to the dinner? Like, why is he just...
For the same reason that Alex isn't invited. He's dining with the butler.
Whatever. Alex is upstairs.
Essentially Jamie's manservant, even though he's also Jamie's godfather.
Yeah. I mean, he is a Fraser, but he's not like Jamie level Fraser, I guess. Like, he's not a lord or anything.
No, he's
just Myrta.
Friends with Jamie's parents and is
Jamie's
and
Alex,
Jamie's mom.
Yeah. Alex is upstairs with like a delusional Mary. She's like in and out of consciousness.
He's on poppy.
Huh?
He's on poppy oil.
Yeah. And I mean, instead of just letting the girl sleep, Alex like keeps like fidgeting, like he keeps talking to her, like stroking her hair, like, which is supposed to be comforting, but like not when you're like
out of concern. Like, he has no idea how to deal with a girl who's just been raped.
He doesn't know, like, he thinks he's like being helpful, but like as a viewer the whole entire time I'm just like, stop touching her, stop talking to her, just like let her sleep. Like, this is going to backfire.
In fact, you probably shouldn't be in the room.
Yeah, like so bad, because she's like going to wake up, she's kind of a little delusional. The last thing she remembers is being fucking raped. And then like there's a dude in the room with her. Like, she's not going to be able to like tell it's you. Which is exactly what fucking happens, is that she wakes up, she freaks out, and she just like runs willy-nilly through the house. And like this house that's huge, she ends up right outside the freaking dining room, screaming and yelling. Alex follows her, kind of tackles her to like calm her down, but not really. So like he has her like freaking pinned to the floor, and she's just screaming. So the people in the dining room hear it, they hear the commotion, they all get up and they go to the living room, and they automatically assume that Mary is now being raped by Alex. So Mary's uncle and her fiance go crazy. And this is where this is where things get kind of confusing for me. Because like it just doesn't really make sense why everyone just
evolves into a fist fight, and you don't really know why.
I don't know why. Like, I get why Mary's family starts like attacking Alex, because if you did walk into that, that's what you would think was happening. I don't understand why Jamie and Myrta start fighting them though. Like, that's what I'm not getting. Huh?
I said, they're Scottish.
Yeah.
And that's another big departure from the book and the way this scene plays out in the book. I can't remember exactly what the circumstances are, but I think it's the same people are involved. Like, I think that it's Mary's uncle, maybe the Vicomte, but I don't think the Vicomte is there. They do discover Mary hysterical at their house. I just don't. Alex wasn't there, or if he was like not involved. Like, he wasn't involved the same way that he is in the show. He wasn't in the room. He's not the reason she freaked out. I think Claire was in the room when she freaked out and like ran out of the room. But so all of that stuff still happens in the same way, or at least in a similar way. But nobody gets into a fist fight. They also have this weird misunderstanding, thinking that Claire and Jamie are keeping Mary for like
Which is like no one asked like why the hell is Mary at your house? Like that
They
wasn't
do. Like that's the first question in the book.
yeah, but like that in the show it's not like I don't know if they knew that Mary went to the I'm assuming they knew that Mary went to the hospital with Claire, but at this point Mary should be back at wherever she's staying. Like
Right.
there's no reason for her to be like in a nightgown in the Fraser house,
Yeah,
which
and the
was
fact that that's
never
not an initial question is
yeah.
interesting. I think one of the reasons they did it that way is for a lot of the reasons they're the same reason they're doing a lot of other things, which is to move the story along a lot faster.
Mhm.
Having Alex be directly involved and having it be more like almost more violent in discovering her. It's not just like, oh my god, there she is. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Um, it
It is
means that their situation becomes immediately a lot more dire. One of the things in the book is that after she's raped and he says, we can't tell anyone, no one can find out she's been raped because
yeah.
no man will have her.
Especially not
Like that plot line continues once her family finds out what happened and Claire
mhm.
goes to talk to her and stuff. One of the ongoing like issues is that the Vicomte won't marry her anymore, so she doesn't have that match anymore. She's
Yeah.
still in love with Alex, but the two of them can't run off together because she's been disgraced, so she has nothing, and
Mhm.
he doesn't really have anything. And if they were to run off together, it would be a huge scandal. So the Duke would cut him off, and he wouldn't have anything either, and they'd essentially die in poverty. But
Yeah.
it's like this whole thing that takes place over a period of time and a number of conversations where you like figure that out. Whereas to have it look like he's the one who's doing the violating
Yeah.
makes him immediately like screwed.
See, like I would think that if I don't know. It was just it was very odd to me. Like this like I feel like this sequence was very accelerated that I couldn't grasp what was truly going on.
It was definitely accelerated. I think part of that was also because they got to have their fun with Fergus.
Yeah. I mean, you like as the fight's going on, Fergus like so I'm not like so then I'm still like confused like is this supposed to be like comedic? Because
Right, like
they're
it's
cutting
supposed to be comedic because it's
yeah.
done
Because
that way. Like you wouldn't intercut Fergus eating at the table.
yeah, so like while everyone leaves the
Eating the
table,
yeah,
Fergus goes in and like finishes everyone's meal as like Myrta and Jamie are like just like beating up these guys. The Duke is appalled and goes, "Well, I guess I'm not going to have dessert," and leaves. Prince Charles and Frenchie McFrenchpants have an exchange, which leads to Charles leaving with Frenchie. And then I just don't. I mean, like Mary's family comes out like swinging swords as soon as they step into the living room. How did they even know it was her at first?
yeah.
I mean, it would just seemed a bit odd to me. I don't know. I just don't fully understand why there was an actual fist fight.
I don't either necessarily. Um, I don't know how I feel about like I liked a lot of elements of this episode. It's weird watching it because this is the first time where I really felt like they weren't making great decisions in adapting from the book, and I think part of that is the time constraint
Hmm.
that they're under, and they have to squeeze a longer book into a shorter season. If they're really doing the whole book, that seems like a really bad idea, but
Hmm.
maybe they are. Um, so it was really bizarre to watch
Yeah.
for me anyway.
I mean, for me, it was only that little sequence was bizarre, but I don't know because I don't know what's happening in the book. I don't know how they do it in the book differently. So besides what you've just told me, but only that was bizarre. And like I said before, like in the beginning of this episode, like the fact that like Charles has a lover, I found was bizarre because they're depicting him completely different than I guess they are in the book. So it just didn't really make complete sense to me. But like I get it now. I understand.
Yeah, like I just think I think Diana Gabaldon did a better job plotting out certain beats in the book, but I do prefer the television medium. So it's weird. It's one of those things that I think you enjoy more if you haven't read the book. Because
Yeah.
you don't have that context and your brain is not always going like, well, that is not happening the way that I expected it to. So it like pulls you out of the action. Whereas if you haven't read the book, if you don't know the context, you're just following along with the story, and the story is still cohesive. It's just very different. So I have no problems with what they're changing necessarily, like from a narrative standpoint. I have no issues with it. But like, and I think this is always what happens when you compare it to the source material, is that like you are constantly making those comparisons, and the adaptations tend to lose something in the comparison.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so that was the episode.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to know what happens next week?
Yeah, what is the I have assumptions as to what the trailer was, but I'm not positive.
I mean, I feel like they're like next, like what's happening next week is shorter than usual. Like usually it's like a little like 30-second thing. Like this was like literally maybe 10 seconds while like the credits run. And from what I remember of it is Claire says something to Jamie about blackjack and about, I guess I think she may tell him that Mary is Frank's descendant and that she's going to marry blackjack and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. And she says something like she can't kill blackjack for like another year. This is when he dies. And if you kill him, then you're ruining Frank's chance of being alive in the future, which leads Jamie to like getting pissed off and saying like, it's either me or him. Like you have to choose between me or him kind of situation.
Yeah, so they are bringing back that central conflict between Claire and Jamie in this book, which is good because I liked it. I think it was a really good moment in the novel for Claire in that she does feel these conflicting loyalties to these two men. Like she loves Jamie and she chose Jamie, but at the same time she loved Frank. She still does, and she doesn't want to inadvertently lead to his not existing.
Yeah. So that's like it's like a big dramatic scene that they show.
Yeah, I was looking at the titles and stuff for the upcoming episodes, and I'm trying to figure out. I don't think they're gonna do the whole book.
I don't know.
I just don't, because it doesn't feel
you
like...
You have to realize that we're only, like, it's 13 episodes and we're only going into episode 5. So there's still, like, a lot of time for
I know, there's still a lot of time, but you don't realize how much happens in the book.
Yeah, but, like, how accelerated are we already in the story?
We're pretty accelerated already. And so, like, I won't be surprised if they're trying to do that because of how I feel like they're just moving things along at a rapid pace. But there are dramatic things that happen over the next bunch of the book where I feel like they have to spend time with them.
Yeah.
They can't rush through certain beats.
I feel like how much longer can they possibly be in France?
They could be in France for a decent amount of time, which is why I feel like there's an obvious cutoff point to the season, just as there's an obvious point for them to split the season if they were still doing 16 episodes. There is, at about the midpoint of the book, there is a huge narrative shift.
Where they go back to Scotland.
Yes, where they go back to Scotland. But the circumstances leading up to that shift.
My question is, oh no, I can't say this. Never mind.
Now, at that same time, by the way, in the book, the Dragonfly and Amber becomes a plot point. It's a really, really minor plot point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it has to be something if the book's named after.
Right. It's the idea of like being frozen in time and stuff. But the actual physical thing that is the Dragonfly and Amber pops up as a plot point at that time. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if they do cut it off at one of two places, either when they go back to Scotland or at a certain point after they get back. But as I said, I haven't finished the book, so I'm not positive if it plays a better role later on, which
I just can't foresee them being in France for like, I don't know, 8 more episodes. You honestly think they can be in France for 8 more episodes?
No, I don't think they could. Well, I don't think they could be in France for 8 more episodes. They could certainly, with the amount of stuff in the book, they could easily draw the show out to be that long if they wanted to. But then I feel like they would have spent more time in these first 4.
Yeah.
Setting things up a little differently, especially this one. The first 3 episodes, I felt like I was pretty confident that they were just going to cut it at like halfway through the book at the end of the season, and it wasn't going to be a book a season. It was going to be book 2 over 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But then this episode, they just like rocketed through a whole bunch of crap.
Yeah, that's why I'm like feeling like that. There's just no way they could be in like doing this same shit for 8 more episodes.
Yeah, I mean there are still 3 to 4 pretty major things that happen over the course of their time in France. And if I'm specifically paying attention to episode titles, I could see a lot of the France stuff wrapping up in episode 8 or 9. Just judging by what I know and what those things could possibly mean in terms of episode titles. So I wouldn't be surprised if they end up leaving France in episode 8 or 9 or 10. But then the last 3 episodes, they can't do the rest of the book in the last 3 episodes. It's half the book.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they're going to cut it, but there's no way they're doing the whole book, I don't think.
I don't know.
We'll find out.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know. You didn't even finish the book yet.
No, I don't know. I haven't finished the book yet, but just judging by what I know for like so far, like I'm most of the way through the book, I just can't see them doing it that quickly.
Yeah. Guess we'll just find out.
Yeah, and there's some really good places to cut it off, so I would respect them a little more if they did that than if they tried to get through the whole book.
They do it for Game of Thrones, so... And they do it in 10 episodes of Game of Thrones. Just saying.
Yeah, and I find Game of Thrones boring.
Oh. The book or the show?
The show.
I don't know what the fuck you're watching.
I stopped watching in season 3 because I just wasn't interested in continuing.
Jeez, that's just...
Like, the only thing keeping me watching past season 3 was, like, the promise of certain characters' demises.
It's just fucked up.
It is. Anyway, all right, so that's it for this episode. We've been talking for way too long, so we should wrap this up.
Yeah.
I've had some interesting thoughts, though. We would like to know, as always, what you thought of the episode, of this episode, and, of course, of the episode of Outlander. You can leave all your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, make fun of us all you want, whatever, in the comments, either on the video or on the website. You can also tweet all of your comments, questions, concerns, etc. at us. I am at Tricia Ennis. She's at Kait Calabro. # 2chicks1show. You can also tweet at the website, allgeektomenet, at allgeektomenet. With all your nonsense, all your Outlanderness.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. Let us know what your favorite part of the episode was, your least favorite part, how you feel about...
I mean, I feel like everyone's favorite part is Marta and Fergus.
I mean, yeah, the best part of the show was Marta and Fergus talking about women, and if you disagree, you're wrong.
Yeah. There was like a cute little picture that Outlander like tweeted out yesterday or maybe Monday of like Marta and Fergus together. They were like all smiley. It was so cute. Just warmed my little heart.
Oh, goodness. And on that note, we will see you next week after an all-new episode of Outlander. So long.
Bye.